Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode of the show, we're talking to John Warmann of Tip Blockchain. They're trying to improve the usability of cryptocurrency. If you want to know more, all the links are going to be in the show notes. But before we get to the interview, I've got this quick message. Hello, if you like this episode and you want to hear more like it, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you'll get every single episode. The Talking Cryptocurrency podcast is available on all podcast clients. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And if podcasts aren't your thing, I publish video versions of these interviews on YouTube and DTube, so you can subscribe there too. All the links to all that stuff is going to be in the show notes. So please, if you want to hear more of this show, subscribe. Hello, and on this episode, I have John Warmann, founder and CEO of Tip Blockchain. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, of course. So could you tell me a little bit about the problem you're trying to solve here?
Right. So I'll give some background on our company, Tip Blockchain. We're a new player in the crypto space, and we're solving the problem of usability and ease of use. So that's a problem that has not really been tackled in the crypto space. I have not been in crypto that long. I've been in for just about a year. And when I got into crypto, I started trying to use it. I realized that the solutions out there were not very user-friendly. The fact that people still deal with cryptocurrency by using cryptographically hashed addresses, and there's no way to find people to transact with. Essentially, if you want to send somebody a crypto transaction, you have to ask them for the address. They go through this ritual of copying and pasting and verifying, re-verifying five times to make sure it's the correct address before you can send somebody a transaction. That whole process is something that people in crypto are used to, but outside of the crypto world, it seems very foreign to anybody. And I recognize that as one of the reasons why crypto has not really gained mainstream adoption in terms of use, right? So even today, years after Bitcoin was created, I think it's been almost 10 years, most people use crypto just for the investment potential and for speculating. People aren't actually using crypto as money. And I think one of the reasons is this whole process. It's not easy to use. So the problem that Tip is solving is making crypto accessible to anybody in the world. So anybody who has no technical background and does not need any understanding of how it works, private keys, public keys, addresses, you don't need to know all that. We're abstracting everything and making it easy and accessible for everybody. So that's the mission of Tip, and we're trying to do this to bring on mass adoption of cryptocurrency.
Okay. And how does that work with the key management?
The user still has the private key, right? They still have their keys. They just don't have to know that the key is there. So think of it this way, if you're accessing a website, right, you don't need to know that the website has an IP address. All you know is it has a host name. You can type in www.google.com, and that's what you care about. You don't need to know that there's a DNS system underneath the hood, and there's some, routing, and all that stuff doesn't have to happen. Where we are with crypto today is where the internet was about 30 years ago, right? So, the technology that lies under the internet is still the people are still interacting with the raw technology. They're not services built on top of that to make it easy to access without even thinking about it. So what Tip is doing is we're abstracting all these technicalities. They are still under the hood, but we're creating easy to use constructs that abstract all these technical layers and give the user a very familiar, easy to use interface, so they don't have to worry about it. They don't even have to know that it's crypto. They just know that it works.
So what are some of the other ways you're trying to solve this problem of cryptocurrency just generally being hard to use?
Yeah, so our solution is this. We're creating a platform that has the ability to discover information. And there are so many use cases for that. So on a very, very high level, every user and every transaction on the network will have some information attached to them. That's, for a user, you have some information attached to your account. For a transaction, you can, again, attach information to that. And the reason why this makes it easy to use is that once you have this information, you can then add, data, or once you have this raw data, you can then add information that makes sense to the user. One application that we're doing is for every account on the platform, we still have the crypto addresses just like on Bitcoin and on Ethereum. You'd have a long, address with, hexadecimal numbers or an alphanumeric address, but the user doesn't have to know about that. One of the solutions that we're creating is we'll have usernames attached to each account. So every user is going to have a name similar to a Twitter handle or or a Telegram username or Snapchat username. These are constructs that everybody's familiar with. People already know how they work. Everybody uses Twitter, WhatsApp. They know how to find people using these usernames. You don't have to learn anything to use that. So by having usernames on our platform, first of all, we're removing that technical barrier and having to know about private keys and public keys and all that stuff. The public key and private key are still under the hood, but the user just doesn't have to concern themselves with those constructs. All they do is they use the username, like they are familiar with on other platforms. And you can then find people by not only typing in their name, you can also search, right? So by having that information, we can add qualitative information about users that make them easy to find. For instance, you can have users not only their ID, you can even have users full names if they choose to put that information. You can have phone numbers. You can have contextual information around an account that provides a way to find people and to connect with people on our network. So with all this information, right, what we end up having is an ecosystem that is rich with information that enhances the use of cryptocurrency. It makes it easier to find people to transact with and to interact with. And by removing the technical barriers, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in new blood into the crypto space, because the average non-technical person is never going to send crypto to an address that looks like a 60-character number. That's never going to happen, right? But take that away and give them a username, and now you have something that's familiar with that everybody is familiar with. I always say this: my mom uses WhatsApp. My grandmother, she's 96 years old, and she uses WhatsApp. She has a WhatsApp account. Kids, teenagers, soccer moms, their cousins, their grandfathers, everybody who has a smartphone, which is pretty much everybody in the world, knows how to send a message on Twitter, right? So by removing all these technical constructs and replacing them with things that are friendly, we can now make crypto accessible to more people and create an ecosystem where people can transact and trade easily. So that's the nutshell of the solution that we're providing. But that's only one side of the coin. On the flip side, because we're trying to create a platform where users can use crypto in the real world, right? So one way is by making it easy to use so they can find people to transact with. But not only that, we need a way of being able to spend cryptocurrency. So we're also going to be working with merchants and providing a solution for merchants to make it easy for them to accept cryptocurrency payments. That solution is also built on top of the existing, data that we're adding on our blockchain. And by doing that, what we do is we provide merchants a way for them to, just as an example, follow up with their customers, right? Because now when they're accepting cryptocurrency payments, they not only get a transaction hash as other platforms get. Like if you buy something with Bitcoin, you just get a hash and that's it. Or the merchant just gets a hash and they don't have any information about who that order came from, what that order was for. But with that platform, because we have this information attached to transactions, you can now put an identity on a transaction. You can now put an order, for instance, an order number. You can now put an invoice. So you can put a face to all these transactions, and you provide this information for merchants. So our approach to solving the usability problem is two-pronged, both on the user endpoint and also on the merchant endpoint. And, in our ecosystem, these guys are going to coexist, live side by side, can find each other. You can find your friends, your family. You can find the coffee shop down the road or down the street. You can find, the online store, and you can trade and you can transact in an easy to use, very friendly manner.
And what do the transaction times look like on this?
So out of the box, we're building a solution first on the Ethereum blockchain. We are developing our own blockchain that's going to make all this very seamless and make things work, really easily. However, it will take some amount of time to build the blockchain We currently have on our roadmap about a year and a half till our blockchain is live. Our solution that we're creating is one that we think the crypto world needs today, and can't wait for 2.5 years to build out the whole full solution. So what we're doing is we're, like I said, launching on the Ethereum network as an ERC20 token. So the underlying technicalities, transaction speed, transaction times, those will be that of Ethereum in the interim. And then once we move on to our own chain, we'll be running the chain on a delegated proof of stake consensus algorithm. And with that, we will be aiming to get transaction times under 10 seconds and throughput of somewhere about at least 1,000 transactions per second. And we're aiming to scale up to 10,000 transactions per second.
Is there any concern with the bear market and people not really wanting to spend their crypto that will be a problem?
Right. That is a problem that is faced by all crypto projects. Mm-hmm. So today, most people buy crypto for the primary objective of seeing gains on that, right? And that's what people have gotten used to. But that's not the if you go back to to the intentions or to the whole idea of cryptocurrency, right? It's meant to be used as a currency. One of the functions of currency is a store of value, and that crypto, over the years has been able to fulfill that requirement. But another requirement of a currency is as a medium of exchange, right? So you should be able to send between each other and buy things with it. That cryptocurrency is currently failing at delivering on that, and the reasons for that are several. One of them is people are not willing to spend crypto because they're expecting the value to go up. But I think the other reason is there's not a really easy way or a very convenient way for people to use cryptocurrency in the real world because of all the technical problems that I mentioned before. So by providing our solution, we'll be taking away some of the reasons why people are not willing or not able to spend cryptocurrency. I mean, because even if you have somebody who wants to spend cryptocurrency, first of all, you don't have merchants who are going to accept it. There's no easy way to spend it because you have to go through that whole ritual of copying and pasting, and it's just not a friendly system, right? So by creating our platform, we can't solve all the problems. We can't prevent people from, or rather, we can't make people spend crypto if they don't want to spend it. However, by giving them a way to use their crypto, and if they know that there's the coffee shop next door accepts tokens, and there's an easy way to transact using cryptocurrency, I believe you'll see more and more people willing to spend cryptocurrency. And on our platform, we will also be providing several incentives for users to use cryptocurrency. So, of course, we have to be competitive with the other options out there. And those are things that we will be definitely considering.
So what have been some of the biggest challenges of getting this thing going so far? You're using a temporary, essentially, blockchain. So you have to roll your own soon. That's got to be quite the challenge.
Absolutely. So when we started out, we had initially planned on launching with our own blockchain, but we, after a lot of consideration, figured out that would take a considerable amount of time. Like I said, on our roadmap, we're currently looking at having our mainnet live in about a year and a half. And if we wanted to wait till then to have a solution in place, we think we would be behind the curve because we want to be a leader in the space. And I think what we're doing is really innovative, and there are not a lot of other solutions doing exactly what we're doing. We have a lot of people doing subsets of what we're doing, but we're taking the whole usability from a holistic, viewpoint and solving this problem across the board. So in order to be there in time, we decided to go with the Ethereum network. Ethereum provides a lot of conveniences. It saves us time. They have an existing proven platform that we can piggyback on for now. So that's great. But on the downside, it also has a lot of limitations, because we have to deal with the bottlenecks of the Ethereum platform, the transaction speeds, there's several times when the network gets congested, so those are all things that we have to find ways to work around. Essentially you have to mold the Ethereum blockchain interfaces to work with our platform. So that has been one challenge. The other one is, we're doing something that's really, really innovative. That's being able to attach metadata to blockchain transactions. Without going into too much detail or getting too technical, so that solution itself is bringing together traditional databases, so traditional database management systems, and the blockchain. Because the blockchain has been described as a form of database. It stores data, but it's not. But people are not able to access that data that is stored on the blockchain. With our solution, what we're doing is we're making this data on the chain accessible, so you can find this information and you can use it. And this is how we're doing usernames. We're doing merchant solutions and all these other things that we're building on top of our platform. So doing this, while it does provide some pretty ingenious solutions, it does provide some technical problems as well. As we're having to create a chain that is searchable, right? A chain that can store information, a chain that is that can index information. So we are at the cutting edge of technology in our space, and we're having to solve problems that that other that no other projects have encountered. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of technical problems that we're solving. And then on the flip side as well, on the non-technical side, it's been a pretty challenging time right now, just because as you mentioned earlier, the current market is a bear market, so we're not seeing the level of interest in new projects as the was, let's say, last year, right? So that's something that we've also have to essentially work against that wave and to try to create some visibility when there are not maybe a lot of people paying attention to the whole crypto space, because people are sort of just essentially holding on and waiting to see what happens, right? So it's not the best timing, but what we're trying to do is have our solution out there and in place, so that when the market starts to recover, solutions like ours can present themselves as a viable solution to solving that whole mass adoption problem that has not been solved thus far.
Yeah, this is the time to plant the seeds.
Exactly, which is exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, totally. So what are some of your plans for the future? I think I saw there was going to be a POS.
Right. So I'll just briefly go over the key points in our roadmap. We're currently holding our token sale to raise funds for the future development of the platform and the continued development of the platform. That's going on between July and August of this year. And on the development side, we're building out the platform, and we already started working on that. We're planning on having our MVP or our concept app out this month, so in July. So definitely within the 2 weeks, we'll be releasing an app on the Play Store. Later on, we will also do an iOS app, but that will come, at a later time. So first, it will only be an Android app, and on that app, users will be able to find other people, search for people, register their usernames, or rather pre-register their usernames. We'll actually be doing a lot of social campaigns around that, so people can sign up and get their username before it gets taken. Because just like any other username, they'll be taken on a first come first serve basis. So people should look out for that app coming out this month. And then after that, we'll continue, developing our platform, and then we'll have the public. So initially, it'll be an MVP, sort of a beta app, because we need to have users in the public test it out, make sure everything works before we move to our live app. The live app is scheduled to come out later in this year, so towards the ending of this year. So that's the solution for the end users. So essentially the clients or the customers, where they can find, people and transact. And essentially it will be like a social network on crypto. And then on the other side, it would be the point of sale system. So in the early part of next year, in January, we're planning to have our point of sale system out at that time in beta testing. So we'll be working with some merchants to get them to start to test out our platform and start to use it. And then at this time, we can connect both the discovery app, that's what we call it, where you have the users, and then the merchant apps. And in the ecosystem, the users on both sides can find each other and then transact. In parallel, so all this is going to be initially working on the Ethereum blockchain. But then while working on the front end apps and releasing those on Ethereum, we'll be at the same time working on our own blockchain. So in parallel, we'll build in the tip blockchain that's going to have all this stuff, natively on chain. So the reason why we need to move to our own chain is in the phase one on Ethereum. Because Ethereum does not support all the features that we plan on having on our platform, we're going to have to create a hybrid centralized, decentralized solution where we have, databases that are off chain that store and index all this information that is then accessible through our apps and through, our interfaces. But the goal is to have everything decentralized so that it's a self-running, self-sufficient system that can keep itself going. So that's why we'll move into our own chain down the road. So So first thing is get that app out in the next month, and then the point of sale system comes end of next year, and then we have our test net coming somewhere mid of next year, and then continue developing that, and then have the main net release in early 2020. So that's the very high level roadmap. But we have updates literally every quarter. We have a substantial release coming out between now in 2020, because we're a very active project, and we want to keep putting out solutions. So we have something that the community can look forward to literally every quarter for the next 2 years.
Well, it's definitely a very exciting project. It's great to simplify things, because I feel like I talk to a lot of common people and they're very, very intimidated. They don't even know where to start. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. Was there anything that I should have asked you that maybe I missed?
Not necessarily, but what I can just add to that is that, so we're still a pretty small project. A lot of people have not heard about us. The name is Tip Blockchain. There are some other solutions out there doing, like I said, subsets of what we're doing. There's no other platform doing things in a or taking things from a holistic approach in terms of solving the usability problem. We think that once people start to see our platform, they'll recognize that we have the potential to be at the forefront of the whole cryptocurrency revolution, because we're going to be, people say Bitcoin is the gateway crypto. However, Bitcoin is very, very user unfriendly, right? You have to learn a lot of things in order to use Bitcoin. People in crypto don't recognize that because they're used to it, but the average person who's never used crypto is not going to get on crypto and start using, these constructs they're not used to. So we plan on positioning ourselves to be, the gateway crypto platform that onboards the masses. And that's what we're working on. And we already have a solution that's almost out, our MVP. And, we have, the technology to make that mass adoption happen. So, people who've not, looked at us yet should definitely take a look at us.
All right. Well, I'll make sure I have all the links inside the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Thanks, John, for coming on the show. I wish you a lot of luck with this project. If you want to know more about Tip Blockchain, all the links are in the show notes. You've been listening to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. My name is Jason Rigden, and I've been your host. Thanks for listening to the show. If you liked it, please consider giving us a rating and review on iTunes. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day.